It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and texts for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
The Hyperspace.
Podcasting in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the hyperspace. Podcasting in the 25th century. The interwebs' first and only podcast. My name's Matt.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Mike.
How you doing, guys?
I'm doing pretty good.
You know, I was thinking today. Today is a Saturday, and it's a weekend for me.
Okay. As it is measured in the old calendar.
In the old
calendar. Taking those new day skip pills?
Well, I mean,
I wanted to try those.
When I can find them, they're fantastic. But no, I remember on Saturdays I used to like to go and see a movie. And I miss movie theaters. They don't have movie theaters in the 25th century.
It's funny, they don't. The 25th century reminds me of a lot of the year 2020.
Yeah.
When cool stuff is no longer around.
I know.
And we have suffered a great calamity.
I just miss it. I miss the movies, guys.
Yeah, and I think, even though we're coming to you from the 25th century and we know all, I mean, we know everything that's happened, of course, but we've learned from people like Dr. Emmett Brown and other time travel movies that we can't tell you too much about your own destiny.
No.
So we're going to steer clear of that, and we're going to place ourselves back in the 21st century as we record this show today, and come at this topic as if we are one of you.
I think that makes sense.
I do too. You know what? And as a matter of fact, we haven't heard this in a while, guys. Let's give them some news from the interwebs. It is a hyperspace current event podcast.
Do it.
News from the interwebs.
Well, like Matt was saying, there is really nothing going on in movie theaters these days.
Man, no.
Thanks to our friend Lorona. I have seen since March 3 films in theaters.
I mean, you're lucky. I mean, listen, I'm up in New York right now, and my movie theater down the street is still closed. It hasn't reopened.
Well, the one I saw the original King Kong in theaters in March.
Wow.
The week before the AMC's shut down in
Talking
Florida.
about the one with Jeff Bridges and Jessica Hahn?
Jessica Lange?
Lang, yeah.
Jessica. I might want to see the one with Jessica Hahn.
Yeah.
They made one.
Jessica Hahn, yeah. There's a name.
No, it was the 1933 King Kong. It was one of those limited release things. And then it wasn't until late in the summer that I saw the third Bill and Ted movie.
Mm.
And I went very recently and saw The Empire Strikes Back at my local AMC, which was quite a treat, of course. Any chance to see Empire on the big screen is not to be missed. But that is not representative of my normal, summer movie going.
No. It's funny that you mentioned that you saw King Kong, because I was just thinking about movie theaters in general. When they started back in the day, especially in like the 30s when King Kong originally came out, going to the theaters was a big deal. People used to get dressed up for it. It was an event, it was a social scene. And movie theaters were nice. Movie theaters were an upscale place, and it was a very, it was a fun event, and it was a very special event to go see a movie.
Uh-huh.
And I think the movie theaters fell down a bit in their evolution. They got expensive. Movies were expensive. Concessions were very expensive, but the experience was pretty bad. I mean, I think we can all remember watching movies in what we consider almost dive theaters. You know, the seats were crap, sticky floors, sound system wasn't great, but everything was still expensive.
Absolutely. I mean, you did have the bargain theaters, the dollar theaters, as they call them.
Yeah, but even the nicer theaters weren't spectacular.
True. But even at the dollar movies, you ain't getting no break on concessions.
Yeah, exactly right. But there was a turning point, I'd say probably in the last 10 years almost, where big theater companies, I should say, made a very active effort to upscale their theaters. Seats started to get better. Sound systems were upgraded. Picture quality was spectacular. And going to see a movie, although still expensive, was a much more pleasant experience than it was. It almost like it course corrected, kind of heading back to where movies originally were supposed to be. And then the bottom dropped out.
I think we all enjoy the reclining theater seats that are widely available these days.
I never did the vibrating seat theater experience, but...
oh, yeah. I did D-Box once. D-Box. It was distracting and it's not for me. Yeah. I actually turned the effect almost completely off. I saw Force Awakens in D-Box, and it was just it's like somebody kicking your chair.
I didn't know you could control the
you can control the intensity on the side of the recliner. And
was there some guy with a big smile on his face? He had it on full blast, sitting there near you.
Well, I did see it with our friend Mark, so I think he might have. Yeah, he could have been getting a charge out of that. So now we've got a lot of these really, as Matt said, these nice theaters once again, with state-of-the-art sound and seating and picture, and some of them are even restaurants inside, but there's nobody in them. And what is the fallout going to be? We just got word within the past week that Regal Cinemas is closing all of their theaters in the United States.
It's unbelievable.
For the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And that was because they pulled the James Bond film, No Time to Die. I think No Time to Die was really the last gasp. That was the last hope of the theater chains to actually try to stop the bleeding. And when they pulled that, everybody else with a big movie in the chamber, they got cold feet. I think we all know that Tenet was supposed to be the shot in the arm. And it was going to be the canary in the coal mine, as it were, to see how it would do. And I got to say, I think leading with Tenet was probably a mistake. Tell me what you think about this. Okay, so of all the big movies that are scheduled to come out, I can think of 4 or 5. You've got James Bond, you've got Black Widow, you've got Dune, you've got the Wonder Woman sequel, and a movie I almost forgot existed, Ghostbusters 3.
Oh, yeah.
That was supposed to come out this past summer.
This summer, yeah.
These are all movies that are finished. They are done. They're sitting on the shelf. Being the first one in the pool, making that movie a big franchise film, would that have made any difference, do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, it's a tough atmosphere for people to go out and be social in. I mean, there's a lot of factors working against the movie theaters right now. COVID being one.
Sure.
This whole year has been a mess for that. It hasn't gotten any better in terms of civilian trust in places. And it's an election year, and it's getting tough. The media is aggressive. People are getting bombarded on every side, and no one is telling anybody they're safe. And that's a tough thing to absorb. So I think no matter what movie they opted to lead out with, it was going to be a bust. It was going to be a bust. And you start to lose faith in this stuff. I mean, Dune had been announced for a long time, and they just last week pushed it back till a year from now, November 2021. James Bond was, to your point, going to be, a huge hit, a huge, massive movie next year now. Everything that you were looking forward to has been pushed back. So even your enthusiasm to go see a movie has been waned a bit.
There's very few industries right now that have as much stacked against them as movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a public who is, a large amount of them are still have no interest in going to a movie, to a movie
I'm going to
theater.
just interject with all this too, because, I mean, obviously COVID is a thing, and obviously for a specific group of people, it could be very dangerous. But I think there's, when you go back to the media, there's a major inconsistency with what people are getting. And I think people are reacting, I don't know. I think people are reacting strangely. Like, you see people walking by themselves wearing a face covering, which makes no sense. So how are you going to get these people in a movie theater if they're reacting that way?
You're absolutely right. And here's another to add on to that. Right now, executives who are running the production companies for these movies aren't willing to gamble their multi-$100 million project on the hope that people will
come out
feel
to see it.
Okay and go see it. And they're just taking that, they're playing their Vegas odds right now that it's a better bet to push it back, and maybe they'll find a home for it next year. Maybe on the big screen, maybe a deal on streaming. We'll talk about that stuff soon.
Yeah.
But, right now, because people are going back and forth, those people, the executives, aren't willing to gamble on the populace to watch their movie right now. It's crazy.
But I think, dollars and cents, if Tenet had performed, they might have committed. Tenet is not a franchise movie. The franchise behind Tenet is Christopher Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
People don't go to a Christopher Nolan movie because Tom Hardy's in it or Christian Bale's in it. They go to it because it's a Christopher Nolan movie. And, Christopher Nolan, he makes movies to be seen in theaters. He is that kind of filmmaker. I think on paper, Warner Brothers said, this might work. This might bring the cinephiles to the theaters to see this. And it made some money, but it did not make enough. Like I said, the canary in the coal mine died. And that's when everybody else said, nope.
But I mean, it was a risk to release Tenet anyway. I mean, like I said, up in New York here, my theater's still shut down. It hasn't even opened up yet. This entire time. I'm going to go through the entire year now without a movie theater being open. So, I mean, you're talking about a major market, especially on the East Coast.
Yes.
That can't see the movie anyway.
Well, another interesting option was bringing back old blockbusters to the movies over the summer to try to get some people back into the theaters.
Big, major movies that people hadn't seen in a generation.
They like Regal and AMC had a summer movie series that was like a few Star Wars films. They did Jurassic Park. They put out all the Rockies got re-released into theaters. And, some people went and saw them. I think Back to the Future and Ghostbusters was in there too. But, it kept them treading water.
Right.
But even that, I mean, the theaters still have to limit capacity to 50%. And like you said, somebody's not going to take we spent $200 million on Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to put it in a theater where you can only have 50% full.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to make the return on my investment that way.
Mm-hmm.
But by withholding it, how many theaters are going to be around in 2021 to even show the movies? Not to mention the fact that the production pipeline of big films is almost dried up.
Mhm.
There's a couple of big ones in production right now. The 6th Jurassic movie comes to mind. The Batman film is also in production. But, now you're not going to see these big movies for a couple years now on the outside.
Mhm.
So you're going to have, even if things get back up to semi-normal, there's going to be nothing new coming out for almost all of 2021.
Mhm.
And that's another obstacle they have to deal with. Even if they can pack the theaters again, what are you showing them?
Yeah, it's true.
Well, that's the thing too, is they're holding back everything, and I think it's having two effects that I'm not sure if they're considering. I mean, I guess they have to be considering, but it seems odd to be not releasing movies when you have two factors. You have the fact that people are losing their jobs because of this. I mean, when you talk about movies and film production, another thing, an industry that has been severely affected is like touring, bands touring. I know a guy who used to tour with like Bon Jovi and big bands, and he had to just take an overnight job.
Yeah, exact same problem.
And so you got all these people who their livelihood is being decimated, and then you have, and this is probably the biggest danger, is they're getting comfortable watching TV at home. Because, we all like going to movies, but how many times have you gone to a movie and there's just someone obnoxious in there, and you're ready to, like, if you had a gun, you might actually seriously shoot them in the leg so they can't get away. But,
Something Mike is experienced with.
So, you're sitting at home, and that's something you don't have to worry about. You can pause the movie and go to the restroom. You can get a snack, And now people are like, oh, you know what? This isn't too bad. I mean, I haven't seen a movie since all this started, and I really haven't felt inclined to go because I have a pretty substantial collection. I'm rewatching stuff I haven't watched in a while. I'm revisiting some TV shows that I've liked in the past. So, and also the production on the newer shows is what become film-like. It's not 100% there, but you've got a quality, and the stories are like, it's like Lord of the Rings. If you watch the extended cuts, you're basically watching a mini series. So it's the same thing with TV shows now. You're watching, even like a standard season is like a mini series because the story usually runs through all episodes. So then you have the binge watching, which isn't something new, but now people can do it regularly. So I think holding these movies is a mistake, because even with a low return, you're creating a new, I hate to use this term, a new normal. Ugh. But that's what's happening. What we're seeing here is a new normal is being constructed. And the movie industry is going to suffer, because when they flick the switch and say, okay, the government dubs the permission to go out again, they're going to have to rebuild. I mean, I guess it won't be hard to rehire people to work those theaters. But, I mean, will it be easy to get people to come out in droves like they did before? I don't know. Will they be eager to do it? Like, oh, finally we can go out? Or will they just be like, I'm fine. I'm fine at home.
Right.
I think we're going to see the disappearance of the blockbuster. That's what I think is going to happen.
Well, I'm not sure. But, Mike, you brought up, I think you put us in the right direction here. In every tragic scene, there's always opportunities to be had. And what we obviously saw through this entire year 2020 was the Netflix, the Primes, the Hulus. These streaming networks have become the true entertainment mainstay heroes of 2020. And, they're taking full advantage of the fact that people are home, that people can't go to the theaters. And what they kind of started in the past 5 years, they have put into overdrive, where we're seeing, to your point, major productions, major movie film-like productions, quality that we've never seen before in television shows.
Well, not only that, and I real quick, let me interrupt.
Sure.
What was the first big thing before the COVID hit? What was the big thing that it overwhelmed the internet? It was all over social media. What do you remember what it was? Tiger King.
Oh, yes.
So, and that was reality television.
Right.
But that was what everyone was talking about. I mean, everybody knew what that was. How many memes came out, and everybody understood what the memes were. If you said it was Carol Baskin, 70% of anyone you spoke to would know exactly what you were talking about.
Sure, of course.
That bitch, Carol Baskin. I take.
Whoa, hey, Joe Exotic, what are you doing here?
I just want to talk about this a little bit. I'm going to tell that Carol Baskin I'm coming for you. Sorry, guys, I'll let you get back to it.
Burned up Michael Jackson's alligator.
Oh, man, that's a blast from the past.
No, but think about blockbusters. Now, here's the thing, right? Now, we may see the paralysis of movie theaters themselves last for a long time. I think you're always going to have the novelty house pop up that shows movies. You're always going to have some venue that's going to show movies. Is it going to be massively corporate? Is it going to be huge like it was? Maybe not. It might be much more boutique-ish in that regard. Mm-hmm. But I think you're always going to have venues that are going to be playing movies because there's always going to be some demand for it. But that said, that's the end point of a movie. The starting point in the production, houses making blockbusters. I think we're going to see a change. I think we're going to start to see these executives make business decisions. Instead of saying, we're going to make this for theaters, we're going to partner with the Netflix. We're going to partner with Disney Plus. We're going to partner with these streaming services for exclusivity. And already we're seeing with like The Mandalorian. What's the budget on The Mandalorian?
It's high.
It's high. It's
very
bigger
high
than a lot of movies. So, we're already seeing production budgets at film level already in these streaming services. So I just think that they're going to pivot over to these streaming platforms and say, look, who wants it? Who wants the big blockbuster? Who's going to be the one to release this movie? It's going to be a gold rush with these people.
Well, did you hear that Coming to America 2 was to Amazon Prime by Paramount just this week?
There you go.
So
there you go.
What Paramount did, Amazon Prime made them an offer up front, $125 million, which is a pretty, it's a respectable gross, maybe not huge, but I don't know how much the film costs to make, but Amazon said, here's $125 million.
That's profit in their pockets.
And let us have the movie. We're buying the movie from you.
Yep.
And we'll play it.
Now, it might not be the same experience having to watch it at home on your television, unless you're at like Jared's house, who has an amazing movie theater built into his house. But
well, smells like cat poop most of the time, but hey, thanks.
But
well, something you said made me think of maybe what we're going to see is sort of a flip on how the business is done, where everything's going to be made specifically for TV. But then there'll be like exclusive content in the theatrical version. There's like 10 extra minutes if you go see it in the theater or something like that.
I mean, listen, I'm thinking right now, for example, of Dune.
Yes.
And, Dune it's going to be a 2-part movie. It's going to be long, probably 2 hours, if not 2.5 hours per movie. So it's going to be a long movie. But if Dune had come along now where they were trying to sell this thing, just imagine if they sold it to Netflix as a high production budget series that went on for, instead of 6 hours, it went on for 12, to tell the full fleshed out story. I mean, I think there's an opportunity here to take really good literature and really good scripts and really make them into something more than what a movie in the past could deliver.
Well, there's already something like that in the works, and it's Amazon.
Yeah, of course.
The Lord of the Rings TV series.
Exactly right.
How many writers did they hire for that thing? How much money they putting into that thing?
It's huge. But I mean, and now I love the movies. I loved watching Lord of the Rings movies in the theater, but I can't wait to have that much access and that much time with that series. To me, it's like The Mandalorian. It's like I get to watch four movies a season, but you're watching it on your television.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the experience.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a true, seller's market right now with those making the big blockbusters in the streaming services. I think it's going to. It already is happening. I just think that we're going to see less and less. To your point, Mike, blockbusters in the theaters, but it doesn't mean that those stories and those films aren't going to land somewhere, because it's going to be a bidding war.
There were 2 movies released during the lockdown that were originally made for theaters and went straight to on demand. 2 big, well, maybe 3 big movies. First of all, you had the Chris Pratt, Tom Holland Pixar movie that was in theaters for like 2 weeks, and then boom, it was on Disney Plus for free.
Which one was that?
Onward.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's
and
right.
Then Universal went the premium on demand route with the Trolls sequel, and that made bank.
Yeah.
That made a lot of money.
That was a family movie too. I mean, how many
Correct.
parents bought that for their kids?
But
I did.
The third one, and the most recent one, is the Mulan Disney movie that was supposed to be a big theatrical release, that they said, well, they did a really weird thing, Disney did, and I think they learned a lesson. They're like, if you have a Disney Plus subscription that you're already paying for,
You can pay for it.
No, they'll say, give us another $30 and you can have this in your library forever.
Which is basically just buying it.
But that did not... Mulan was not a success in that regard.
Right.
Well, it also had some controversy attached to
There
it.
was a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and there has been a lot of talk, especially around Black Widow and the Wonder Woman 2.
Marvel just needs to bite the bullet and put that thing on Disney Plus. I think they're making a big mistake holding it. They either either release it in the theater or put it on Disney Plus. Either or. I think it would show a lot of courage if they put it in the theater, but I don't think they'll do that.
Yeah, but Mulan was one thing, but Marvel's the crown jewel, and I think if they just pop it out on Disney Plus, I think they may see that as a point of no return.
Yeah, but here's another thing too you got to think about, and this is just a simple marketing thing. You got to keep awareness for your product, and right now there's nothing Marvel out there.
And there hasn't been for a year and a half.
It doesn't matter how popular it is. I mean, I read recently, Mark Hamill was talking about when he did the holiday special. He read the script and thought it was garbage. And George Lucas begged him to do it because they wanted to continue, keep the Star Wars. Keep the Star Wars. What am I, like 87?
Keep the Star Wars alive.
Are you
Is that
watching
Star Wars?
I've been watching Arrested Development. There's a funny line where the mother sends that Korean kid. She's trying to get him out of her hair, and she goes, "Here's some money. Go see a Star Wars or something." It was really funny the way she said it. Anyway, that was a really lame delivery.
The Star War.
Go see a Star War. I think that's what she said.
Well,
But anyway, but the thing is what you have happening with Marvel, and especially because this is like the worst time for Marvel, because they've essentially wrapped their story up.
yes.
And now they have this dry spell. And it's like, I'm like, okay, if Marvel never releases another movie, I got, a great line of films here, all in their slip covers.
Yes, all in their matching slip covers.
And I can watch them. I can, maybe once a year, I'll start with Iron Man and go to Spider-Man Far From Home. So I think Marvel needs to get Black Widow out there in some form. I think they're damaging the brand. No brand is impervious to, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but
Like
You don't take-
apathy?
not apathy.
Like consumer disinterest?
Yeah, well, consumers have a short attention span.
Well, Star Trek had a pretty good time off and came back with a bang.
Yeah, but it wasn't. But that was a different
yeah,
time. People weren't being bombarded. With
I mean, listen, we've
other
had a
types of
Marvel movie.
information.
We've had a Marvel movie, if not 2 movies every year since what 2000.
Well, they were up to 3.
Yeah,
2008. Yeah.
2008. I mean, I agree with you, Mike. We can debate the proper business execution for these movies. We don't. But I mean, the thing is this: let's just say hypothetically, if they released it on Disney Plus right now, would you watch it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sure.
If they
I would.
released it,
That is a movie. I'm okay. I'm going to go ahead and answer you. You're going to ask if I'd see it in a theater.
yeah, of course. Which would you go right now? Which would you prefer to see it in?
I would actually consider seeing it in a theater because
Yeah.
I've seen all.
You've
the
seen all
movies
the
in a
Marvels.
theater.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, you got to look at it this way, right? That movie, I don't know what their production budget would cost, but it's probably like $200 million.
Yeah, it's probably expensive.
And releasing it for free on their platform, when I say free, to their subscribers, which is, a set subscription cost coming in, no matter what, whether they watch it or not, just might not recoup what they need. And
But
then,
they would
then you
keep
have a
an
problem.
awareness. You'd
And
keep.
I know, but then you have a problem with the executives saying, well, our movie didn't make the money back, and it's not making the money back, and we're not going to give you money to make that same budget for a movie later.
Sure.
So it's a bad cycle.
Well, that
you
would be
fall in.
stupid considering
agree.
there's
Don't
there's
forget,
extraneous circumstances.
there is Marvel has the first MCU TV series coming out
Right, yeah.
this year with the WandaVision.
Right.
So they're Mike, they're not going to be out of your mind completely.
Mm-hmm.
And they may feel that putting WandaVision out in concurrently with Black Widow is not the way to go. Because WandaVision's going to be like 6 or 8 episodes or whatever, and
Right.
it's going to go through probably the end of the year into the next year. But that's a different thing. That's a thing that was created for the streaming platform with a budget that was probably commiserate with where it was going to end up. The same thing with The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is already ready to go in a couple of weeks, thank goodness. And that show has obviously proven itself to be a winner. And Disney knows they're going to get more subscribers for season 2, without a doubt. But again, those things are things that were created for that platform. These big movies, the ones sitting there on the shelf, James Bond, I don't even think MGM has a streaming outlet. I mean, they just put it out generally on video on demand.
Well, I think they're gambling holding on to these movies. I think they need to put them out in some form. I say put them out in a theater, let them do whatever business they do, and then put them on a streaming. I think that's the best thing you can do now. I think holding on to them I don't think it's going to be good in the long run.
Well, they keep waiting for
Because, and look what's happened. They're going to close down Regal.
Regal's closed down.
Yeah.
AMC, people say AMC's in worse shape. AMC is almost insolvent. They have so much crushing debt. They're still operating and open, but when they hit zero, that's it. They're toast.
So they've held on to these movies, and now they're not going to have anywhere to show them.
Yes, if you wait until next year, you've got all the AMC shut down. You got all the Regals shut down. Well, what have you done? Well, we're going to hold them off till next year when everything's back to normal.
I'm not sure if we're arguing or agreeing here.
No, we're agreeing.
But
I'm saying,
Okay. All right, it just sounds like you're arguing.
But we talked about this picture earlier, and look at the possible strategy that MGM may have. They know, listen, these guys know exactly what's happening. They're on the pulse of the theater market right now. They know exactly what's happening to their theaters. They know exactly what's happening, how many closed, how many are going to close, what the predictions are. They have all this data. They know. So what they, I guarantee, are doing are waiting, and they're going to put James Bond, for example, out on a bidding war and say, who wants it? And they're going to sell it very expensive, just like Coming to America 2 did. They will not just recoup their production costs, but they will make a profit on this movie.
money.
They will make a profit. Someone will buy it as an exclusive release, albeit, Netflix, Prime, whoever. Disney Plus somehow acquires it. Either way, someone's going to buy it on the streaming, and they will make their money back, and they will make a profit. And to them, they'll be okay with that.
Well, that should be
Because
their
if they
business model in the meantime.
But if they had released it in the theater, they would have lost money. Their investors would have abandoned them for any future projects. And a movie like that, tanking, could bankrupt a thing like MGM because they're leveraged to make that movie work. So right now, they are probably straining with their partners to stall them out to hopefully get a deal like that with a streaming service to recoup and then make a little bit of money. That's how they're going to survive. It's the only way they're going to survive.
I don't know, man. I think.
I mean, for the viewer, it's unfortunate because you're right. The brand gets damaged to the viewer, but at the same time, it's all about the bean count. It's all about the money.
I'm just saying, when they finally get around to releasing them, will anyone care, and will there be any place to show it?
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I can't wait to see Daniel Craig again as James Bond, and I'll watch him on any platform that they give me.
I mean, it's been years since Spectre came out. I mean, the delay in getting this movie made was a lot of it had nothing to do with.
But seeing movies was normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a habit. We're forming a new habit where not seeing movies in the theater is normal.
But like Matt's saying, you sell it to a streamer, they can still see it.
Right, but why don't they just do that now?
Because I guess they're waiting to see.
That's the point I'm saying. Is I think the waiting is a mistake, and it's gonna burn them. If they set this up as the new business model, maybe they can keep in production with other movies.
Well,
don't expect to make $1 billion off each movie
Mike,
now.
They might be banking on the theaters going bankrupt. They might say, listen, guys, this is in our best interest right now to let these things go bankrupt. So we can make negotiations with streaming services
because they don't have to split the money with the theaters anymore.
Exactly right. To them, they might be hoping and holding off and saying, listen, guys, this will help get us to where we need to go faster if we hold this back and watch those companies go under, because then we can just do a flat fee, get our money. We're out of it. We moved on, and we got paid.
I don't know about that. That seems like you're letting a grocery store go out of business so you can sell your product to food stands.
It has been rumored that Disney may want to buy AMC when the stock gets to like 5 cents. So Disney buys these theaters. They can't operate all of them and make money.
Right.
They demolish 80% of them. They keep the premium movie houses.
Their best markets. Yeah.
Do you want to watch the next Star Wars movie at home? Or would you like to come to the theater and watch it in one of our glorious movie palaces?
For $50 a movie before concessions.
That's also something to think about. These movie companies may want to buy these theaters for pennies and use them to distribute their movies and distribute other studios' movies too for a fee. They will still, in every large-ish town, there'll still be movie theaters, but they'll be owned by the studios. That's another way it could go. But, right now, people are watching these at home. You can buy an 85-inch Samsung 4K television for $1,000 right now.
Yeah.
That is more than enough screen for anyone in any setting. And people who don't really care, people who saw at going to the movies as a hassle, as something they had to do to keep the kids entertained, they don't care that these movies are going away because they don't really care about the experience of going to a movie and getting a good seat and having the great sound and the great picture. A lot of people simply just don't care about that anymore. And this lockdown has really brought that to the surface. And, I think, like we've talked about, the theater is going to become a niche experience for people.
Well, there was already kind of talk before all this happened, because, the way movie tickets have gone up so much that, I think there was talk where what you were talking about, it would almost be like an elitist thing, actually going to a theater and watching a movie.
I mean, it all comes full circle, doesn't it, right? It's how it started. It's how it's going to end up.
Yeah, it started with the big, beautiful movie palaces, like Matt was saying, of the past. We have one in Tampa, the Tampa Theater. Of course, they have the Tennessee Theater in Knoxville. These are opulent places that were built in the 1920s that were for these, the movie palaces, as they're called. And and I think that, that's back when the people who could afford to go to the movies went to the movies. And, we may be seeing that circle back again.
I have a solution, I think. Okay, follow me on this. So, 8K is out, but it's becoming more available now. They're shooting some things on 8K. And what's interesting about 8K versus 4K is that 8K is the same resolution as what your eyes feed to your brain through your optic nerve. 4K is less than what your eyes typically see in the world. And that's why when you wear VR, even with 4K right now, if you wear too long, you'll get a little bit of vertigo because your brain is going to start to realize it's not looking at a real picture. 8K, theorized, is solving that VR issue right now.
It's indistinguishable.
Indistinguishable. Your eyes think it's looking at a real picture, and your brain doesn't have that kind of hiccup that it does with 4K. So, let's make some amazing 4K or 8K VR goggles with some amazing sound, and just show movie theaters via VR. You just make a movie theater that you go VR with, and you can sit in your seat and have the experience. And you can still watch a movie and feel that you're in the theater, but you're still in your house.
I had a Samsung Oculus headset a few years ago, and you could. There were apps you could download where you could sit down and look around and like you were in a theater, and you could watch a movie that you had saved on your phone, and it looked like you're sitting in a theater.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't have that kind of experience if you want to be immersed in it right at home, only you're at your house.
But, in the 25th century, it's beamed directly to your brain.
Yeah, I mean, you literally sit there and stare at a wall for 3 hours and watch your movie.
Well, so you realize you pooped your pants.
Yes. Well, as we start to wrap it up, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I just don't think we're going to see sold out movie auditoriums anytime soon. And I don't think we're going to see, any of these big blockbuster films in theaters anytime soon. Maybe we'll see them on TV. Maybe that's the way it'll be. But I mean, I'd like to see James Bond in a theater. That's where I saw most of the other ones. But
well, this will be an interesting prediction. We'll time capsule this episode and we'll revisit it a year from now. Yeah, and we'll see if any of our predictions came true and how this is going to pan out.
No, we already know what happens, so we're just doing this for your benefit, you people of the 20th.
If you want to put bets 21st. And see if we were right. It's a crazy world, and we'd love to be able to tell you what happens.
We can't tell you. We can't tell you. But
all of a sudden there'd be hotels and there'd be like, weird discussions and flying DeLoreans all over the place if we did that. In addition to the movie dilemma, there's some great merchandise here from the Hyperspace. Why don't you go check out thehyperspace.net? We got some great stuff, great shirts, great coffee mugs, all kinds of stuff. Men, women, unisex people. I don't know how we have unisex stuff, which is fantastic.
Do the Martians have two sexes?
You choose. It's not my business. It's your business. You choose. You want a unisex shirt, but there's men's, there's women's shirts, there's coffee mugs.
I wore my wife's Hyperspace female shirt. It fit quite nicely around my heaving bosoms.
But we got some great stuff. But anyways, we always appreciate a comment.
Stays in the bedroom, Jared.
Shut up. Come back next week. We'll talk we'll take a lighter tone next week. Not so current events. It's Halloween. It's Halloween time, 2020, and we're gonna get spooky. A little spooky for you.
I'm not gonna tell them what we're doing yet, though.
Okay.
It'll be a spooky surprise.
It will be.
To all of us, apparently.
Apparently. So, hey, Come back next week, and we'll be celebrating Halloween hyperspace style. Yeah. Come on back.
You know you can't live without this content, so subscribe to the Hyperspace Podcasting in the 25th Century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us next time as we take you into the 25th century.